Did Harry Styles read the books or the
I don't know and never want to know. So, I mean, I would hope not, but if he did, good for him.
Dog, I had some popcorn. I was loving my life. And I was watching a version of myself, which I thought was really funny. Congratulations on to the girl who wrote those. I know she wrote them while we were in the band together. And I will be watching number 3 just to make sure that Landon has his big part because he's earned it.
What's up everyone, welcome to a new video, and be prepared for today's topic because we will be revisiting the past, and a lot of you may be able to relate to this era if you grew up on that side of the internet. Today we are revisiting the fanfic and Wattpad era, specifically around 2010 to 2014 when some of our favorite boy bands were dominating the world. And yes, us One Direction fans were probably in our early teens during this time, and everything the boys did was a major deal for us.
Delusion. Convince yourself.
But to cut to the chase, we are going to be discussing how a Harry Styles fanfic became a huge franchise and now has 5 films as of last year. You may have watched the After film series that features actors like Josephine Langford and Hero Tiffin, and I apologize if I mispronounced their names. But anyways, buckle up and get ready to rewind to this era of manips, fanfics, and delusional fandoms. Let's go. Alright, let's go back a decade and revisit 2013. Wattpad was dominating the internet, especially for people who claimed to be part of large fandoms. And if you don't know, Wattpad is a platform where users could write, publish, and read millions of other stories from other users, and these stories were mostly part of the teen, romance, fiction, or the drama genres. It definitely had a lot of the fandoms in a chokehold because it was a way for them to read fictional stories where they could imagine themselves in a scenario with their favorite celebrities or fictional characters. This went hand in hand with the Tumblr scene at the time, and people would post content like outfit combinations they would imagine for their main character for every single scenario, and even manips, which were fake edits of 2 people that they shipped together. It was definitely a time to be alive. And I do think some of us miss being this delusional and happy because it brings back a lot of nostalgia from when we were teens. Anyways, with Wattpad came one popular writer by the username Imaginator1D who would write tons of stories about One Direction, specifically stories about Harry Styles. Her name is Anna Todd, and she is now a big author and film producer / screenwriter due to her posting on Wattpad.
So I've always been a reader my whole life, and then I started reading on Wattpad, and I was reading a lot of fan fiction. So it was more, of course I'm a fan of him, but it was more, I was immersed in this like community of fan fiction writers who happened to be writing One Direction fan fiction. So it wasn't like wearing like One Direction t-shirts while writing it or anything like this. It was just putting 2 things that I liked and putting them together. And I started writing just on a random Sunday as a hobby, and then it turned into this.
After was written by Anna to tell a fictional story of a girl named Tessa who falls in love with a bad boy version of Harry Styles. The story had 80 chapters and was becoming one of the biggest reads on the website with more than 1 billion reads in 2014. The original story features all of the One Direction members, Liam, Niall, Harry, Zayn, and Louis, but with the main love interest being Harry Styles. And there were several edits that went along with the story, so you can imagine all of the members as punk versions of themselves. So since this fanfic became wildly successful amongst One Direction fans, the stories went from Wattpad to being officially published books. Anna Todd, with the help of Simon & Schuster, an American publishing company, was able to turn her Wattpad fanfics into official books. But when they went public, the names had to be changed for legal purposes, and I believe they just dropped the whole One Direction storyline altogether and only kept Harry. They changed Harry's name to Hardin, and the After book series was born. The story takes place in Seattle, and Tessa, the main character, attends Washington State University, where she falls for Hardin. Now, this book series was turned into its first film in 2019 when the first after film was released, and now it has a total of 5 movies. So when it became more popular, a lot of the Harry fans were not happy with it at all. The reason being is because throughout the entire book series and franchise, Tessa and Hardin are in an on and off again relationship that some people believe are trying to glorify toxic relationships. Hardin's character was meant to be portrayed as a misunderstood bad boy with bad behavior, that he would play with Tessa's emotions and all that stuff. So basically, a lot of fans were upset that this fanfic associated with Harry's face was glamorizing these issues. I know what you're probably thinking, and you're going to ask, what does Harry think of all this? He's the face and the name meant to be behind the entire franchise. Does it make him uncomfortable that millions of people engaged in this juicy fanfic about him? Well, as of today, there are no reliable sources that state that he has ever spoken out about this film series or the book itself. He has never said anything about after or even about the author, Anna, and he's only apparently spoken about it during an interview with Howard Stern on his show, where he basically said he doesn't know much about the storyline or the script origin. And I went to that interview, but honestly I couldn't find where he mentioned the film. But let me know if you guys find another source of him speaking about it, and comment that down below.
The film I was kind of getting into a little bit. It was very, very raunchy movie, I must say. Raunchy as hell. And then I got out of the cinema and realised that the film was based on characters that were all from One Direction. Which I mean was just the funniest thing ever. I've been sat watching that film for however long it was, an hour and whatever, watching Hero, his part, and then it was about us. I mean, it was an interesting viewing perspective. Hardin, who was obviously based on Mr. Styles, and I was apparently based on me was Mr. Landon.
Anna Todd herself has mentioned in an interview before that she said the stories have evolved much more than what it originally was. So it went from being a fanfic about Harry to being another romance story, and I believe her intention was to slowly detach the brand from One Direction as it grew much bigger. She claims the purpose was not to use Harry as an individual himself, because he is completely different from the character, but rather just to use his image to imagine the character to look like him. Kind of like she wrote a love story, and if she had to pick a face to match her male love interest, she'd choose Harry. Even Hero, the actor who played Harry, mentioned this in an interview.
Family life, it's like nothing.
We're just both
about
tall,
that.
skinny white guys with dark hair. That's literally the extent of it. I mean, the character's so wholesome, and I mean, I don't know much about Harry Styles, but from what I've heard, very, very different. I mean, I'd love to hear similarities you could pick out from what Hardin's like in the film to what Harry Styles is like in real life. No, I feel like, yeah, it's a very wholesome character, and it stands on its own too, and I didn't need to take any inspiration from Harry Styles. It was all there.
So Hero agrees with the fact that the franchise has developed so much more from the fan fiction and Harry Styles story, and there was a rumor going around that he filed a restraining order against the author. However, none of that is true. He actually filed it against a stalker at the time, but the media loves to twist stories. However, we may never know how Harry truly feels about the film series and books, but since it has developed into something bigger than just a fanfic, I'm sure he probably has his private opinions about it. Now, onto my opinion. I have not read or seen the movies. I have only watched the first one from 2019, but I didn't think it was terrible, but I also didn't think it was good. I'm not really into romance movies, so maybe my opinion may be invalid, but I definitely think that the acting could have been a bit better. And they even have managed to involve huge stars in the franchise, like Dylan Sprouse, Selma Blair. So that's good for them. They're growing into something a lot bigger. And maybe we'll see the franchise grow more, or maybe they will put a final film out for us to see. But that's all I have for today's video. If you have seen the movies or read the books, let me know what you think of them down below. Also, let me know if you were a Directioner at the time like I was. I was definitely a Zayn girl, but I want to know all your thoughts below. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.